In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, and despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network from the sumptuous, one of those two, resplendent and kind of nifty SHR Media Studios, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Spell it with a K, always. 2 miles east of the Bill Mill, the locus of evil on the entire left coast. That would be the Capitol Building at 10th and L Street downtown in Sacramento, California. Spell it with a K. Where late at night you can hear the death of common sense. There is no common sense in that building. When I leave that door at 10:30 Pacific, I can smell the noxious odor of sulfur and brimstone emanating from that building therein. Even from 2 miles away, I can pick it up. You got a belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat. It's great to see you back. Tonight, it is, oh my gosh, December 10th, the year of our Lord 2019. And Fluffy is going to be your bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them. The lava lamp is, in fact, lighted to my right, your left. Meaning that you can listen and chat at shrmedia.com. Facebook is not playing nicely with us, so if you want to watch the show, go to the SHR Media YouTube channel and input SHR Media. You'll be able to watch the show live right now. I got to tell you this, we don't water our politics and we don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our politics. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the Saloon. Speech is free, but the booze is not. All we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle. Don't forget to tip your waitress or your server, whoever comes to you tonight. Speaking of tonight, we have another great show for you. I'm a programming note. So far, I think that Clint is going to be here for the Chat Show tomorrow night. Crossed fingers, hoping that that is true. Haven't gotten any word back from him yet, but I'm waiting to see. And because of the holiday season and a lot of stuff that's going on, I'm waiting to see if I'm going to do a show on Thursday. I don't have a particular guest, so I'm of two minds about having a show on Thursday. I may not. I will place in social media whether that's going to occur tonight. Tonight, I have Alan Thomas in the saloon. He's been here a bunch of times. He's a Sasquatch, paranormal, UFO, unexplained researcher, hunter, investigator. And as a matter of fact, and then in the second hour, I've got a ton of happy stories. It's all about the impeachment, and the phone line will be open. I tested it today, and it should be working. And I'll just give it to you now. I'll give it to you later when we open up the lines. As soon as Alan calls in, then the lines will be open. It's 209-284-3210. Let me just put that on here. There we go. Now, if you happen to be watching in video, the phone number is on in the video so that you can see what number to call, 209-284-3210. And Alan said he will take calls from anybody and everybody. and which is a great thing. Ooh, hey. And then there's, like I say, second hour, happy stories, a bunch of cool stuff. Do I have you on the air, Sir Alan of Thomas?
Yes, sir. How are ya?
I am great. Now, you sent me a picture of you in extreme dire straits, about to talk on the show. Your body is contorted. It's going to be terrible, but somehow I feel assured that you'll make it through the hour. You're all scrunched up in a chair. I mean, your body positioning looks terrible. You're sacrificing quite a lot to be here on the show tonight, so I really appreciate that. Thank you, Alan Thomas.
Oh, man, it is so uncomfortable.
I know.
It's almost unbearable.
I know. And I didn't have time to tweet that photo out, or else I would have, because, man, I was wrestling my butt to get the show set up for tonight, just because Facebook is still messing with me. It says, no, you don't have the ability to do that. Don't know why, but Facebook or maybe it's me, maybe it's SHR, I'm not sure. We're just not speaking. We're not on speaking terms right now. Tonight, if I could, what I'd like to do, because you've been here before, but I'd like to go into a little bit of a background about you for some of the people who may not have heard you before. I'd like to talk to you tonight about CRPS. I'd like to talk to you about some of the treatments and drug issues that stem from that. I'd like to maybe see if we could get a little bit of a Sasquatch update from you, or maybe a Fresno update. I'd like to talk to you about some of the TV shows like Ghost Hunters, and there are a couple of UFO stories and some information about MUFON that I'd like to talk to tonight. But first, if I could, for the people who do not know who you are, can you give them first your social media and where you can be found if they want to see some of your social media and talk about your show? You have a show.
Yes, I do. I don't do it quite as often as you do, but only I try to get something up there, once or twice a month. And I try to go live here and there, but you can find me on what I call the Squatch Zone, like Sasquatch, but take sass off.
Right.
So it's Squatch Zone. And then I created a new channel here recently. I have acquired a drone, and I'm addicted. And everywhere I go out in the field looking for Sasquatch, I put the drone up. And usually I do like a wide shot, and it has such a great camera on it that if I do see something anomalous or anything like that, I can zoom in the editor. And if I ever find anything, I'll zoom in and then I'll edit with the zoom. But so far, it's all really nice panoramic shots of the Sierras, and that is called Sky Squatchin' on YouTube. Both are on YouTube.
Okay, so folks, Alan Thomas has 2 YouTube channels. Squatch Zone is one of them, and the second one is, what was it again, Alan?
It's Sky Squatchin'.
Sky Squatchin' and Squatch Zone. So go to YouTube, folks, and hit the button, subscribe, like his shows, just like you ought to be liking me on YouTube, because Facebook is not playing nicely with us in the sandbox. So Squatch Zone and Sky Squatchin' for Alan Thomas. And then I think you're also on Facebook too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I have a Squatch Zone on Facebook. I don't do much with it, and then I have a Patreon, the same thing, Squatch Zone. I have a hard time keeping up with all of it. But I keep up with the YouTube thing pretty regular.
Okay.
Any comments or in the community and all that. And here I hit or miss the Patreon and the one on Facebook. And I don't get along with Facebook either. For some reason, they don't like to play nice.
Yeah, and you'd think that Air Squatchin' or Squatch Zone or what you talk about on Facebook, because I would guess that you probably replay your videos or make them available for people to see on Facebook. What is objectionable about that? That makes no sense. That makes zero sense.
I don't know, and I try not to do too much politics just because of that, because of what they do. But they, for some reason, they just mess with me, and I don't know why. I guess they're messing with everybody. I never heard of Facebook jail, but lately, everybody I know is in Facebook jail.
I was there. Facebook won't let me start the show. I have received nothing from Facebook saying that you have violated X, Y, and Z. So, I don't know, maybe they're doing this just because they can. Woo, that's nice to know. Before I ask you a little bit about your background for the people that don't know you or haven't listened to you before, I want to interject this one breaking news story that did occur today. I'm looking at this from the Wall Street Journal. There was a police officer and some other people that were killed in a Jersey City shooting. I think it's 6 people now. Authorities say an officer was killed during a gunfight. The gunfight lasted for about 2 hours in Jersey City. A bunch of people are dead. It was a minimum of 2 hours long gunfight. There was a Jersey City police detective, Joseph Seals. He was shot and killed by the shooters, plural. 2 suspects, I believe, are dead. And it hasn't hit the majority of... this will be interesting to see if it is, and in what way it's couched. But some people who are from that area have told me that it is essentially being considered a terrorist act because that portion of Jersey City is highly Jewish in nature, and the people went there allegedly to kill Jews in this store. So I'm going to be very curious to see how this plays out, specifically tomorrow in the news. A police officer is killed, and a total of 6 people have been killed in Jersey City. And apparently the store involved is Jewish, the area is Jewish, and apparently from the information that I have, these people were specifically targeted for that. That's the largest breaking news story that I have right now. For folks that don't know who Alan Thomas is, Alan, give us a little a taste of your background and where you've been and what you've done over the years.
Well, I raised foster kids,
okay,
and up in the hills, because I have a thing for kids. Not like a weird thing. I like kids.
Help kids, sure.
Yeah. And then I worked for the casinos industry and was a marketing director, a food and beverage director, and also the computer network administrator. And was retired medically when a doctor made a mistake and plugged the artery in my leg. And that ended my career there. And then after that, I actually died twice on the table when they fixed the leg. And that started a new life. I had a new life after that. And I had seen a Sasquatch in 1987 and never had, when you're working and supporting big, huge families, 6 kids, you don't have time to look for Sasquatch. But
right.
After being disabled medically, I had a lot of time. So then that's when I started looking for people. And I thought I was the only one that saw a Sasquatch. And finally I found some people that did, and then that started my squatching career. And since then I've been on Finding Bigfoot, Monsters and Mysteries in America. We started a show called Paranormal Central. That's where we met. I met you. We were doing a remote show out, I think it was like a SAC UFO con or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. At the Crown Hyatt Hotel off of Interstate 80 and Madison Avenue in Sacramento. And yes, and you and Jeff were doing your show, and the production quality of that, I have to say this, I say it every time. You were sitting there for a while, and then you got into the studio. These guys, you and Jeff, drove 1.789 metric tons of studio stuff, I guess in a trailer. I don't know how you got it there. But you somehow transported this huge studio set from Fresno in a 4.5-hour drive from Fresno north to Sacramento and set up the studio perfectly. It was a beautiful studio. That had to take you a ton of time just to do that, but it was gorgeous.
Yeah, I think it took us a couple hours there to set it up. You wouldn't believe like how many people were taking pictures of us. We had aliens hanging, tied onto the truck, and the giant UFO that we made. I mean, it was great. And everywhere we go, when we were doing that, we brought that, and we wanted people to experience something different and be interesting. We didn't want to be set up at a little card table or something like that. We wanted it to be something they won't forget.
It was impressive, I have to say. It was very, very impressive. You've been to a bunch of places since then. The show Jeff is doing, now you're doing your own 2 shows on YouTube. You and I met in Jackson for a paranormal conference. There's another one coming in Virginia City. So you're still making various appearances. But let's go back a little bit. You said life changed when you died on the table twice, and I mean the operating table, and they were trying to repair something that was going on in your leg when you died twice. Is that correct? That's
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they back then, let's see, I was 40 years old. It was year 2000.
Okay.
And they came up with this new device. All it was a simple angiogram, a regular little in and out kind of thing. And they used a new technology. Normally, when you do an angiogram, they have to put 50 minutes of pressure, direct pressure, where they put the catheter in the femoral artery.
Okay.
Well, they came up with this new thing, and it was called a collagen plug. And the idea was, and I think they're still using them today, but they didn't know what they were doing. And but they put it, they were supposed to put it over the artery where they pierced the artery with the catheter needle. And then it would melt over it and then harden, and it would only be 15 minutes, and it would stop the bleeding.
Okay.
So opposed to 50 minutes. But they weren't too sure how it worked or something, and they went ahead and put the direct pressure for 50 minutes, and they pushed that plug into the artery. And then it melted, and then it clotted, and it totally took no blood to the leg. And we didn't figure out that for 8 days. So the leg was dying, and they were telling me, things start dying in seconds, and then minutes, more die, and then hours, then days, you're really in trouble. And when they put me under to do the surgery, they said, you may not have a leg when you wake up. And that was trippy. To say the least.
After the first operation, did they send you home or did they keep you?
They kept me, and I don't remember much for I don't know how long, maybe a week, because I couldn't bend. So they had to keep me out. If I would have sat up or bent, I would have broke the stitches and then bled out before they could fix it. So they kept me out for a little while. But when I came directly out of surgery in recovery and came to, they handed me a little button and said I could push it every 6 minutes because it was going to be very, very painful. But then he pulled it away from me. He says, but not yet. I have to tell you that, you died 2 times and you still have your leg, and I was like, what? And I felt around, yay, a leg, I was pretty happy about that. And then, Then one day I was watching, I really wasn't watching TV, but the TV was on, and I hadn't really remembered what happened when I died. That a TV show was on, and this guy was saying, stay with us, like that. And all of a sudden I had this flashback, and I remember going to heaven. I remember being able to travel at the speed of light, or actually the speed of thought, and where I was, and all the smells and everything. It was just amazing. I mean, I had little ideas of it, but it really hadn't really hit me until I heard that on the TV. And then, then I remember I thought there was these beautiful, gorgeous mountains, and I thought, man, I'm going to check that out one day. As soon as I thought it, I was in the mountains, and it was beautiful, and the smell was really, the smell of the mountains. I mean, it was it smelled good. And I was turning a 360 looking at everything, and when I got 180, I was looking at the valley where I was when I first started there. And I thought, oh, man, what if somebody was there and I was supposed to meet somebody? And, oh, no, I shouldn't have left. As soon as I thought I shouldn't have left, I was back in the valley, and sure enough, there was somebody there, these light beings. They were completely bright white light, beautiful. And then one of them not spoke with words, but said with his mind, into my mind, are you done? And I didn't know what he was talking about. And I thought, what? Done doing what? As soon as I thought that, he says, are you done? I'm like, thinking in my mind, like, what is he talking about? Am I done? And I think he was meaning, am I done with life?
Right, okay.
Stay there, stay there. But then he says, and while I'm like, all these thoughts running through my mind, and he says, what about your kids and your grandkids, And soon as my mind thought back to my family, I knew where they were. I could see them. I knew everything about it, of what was going on with them. And as soon as my thoughts started doing that, I felt like I was being sucked back, and I started to be sucked back to my body. And I flew like probably in 1 second from there and I slammed into my body. Now, I don't know if I really slammed into my body or if they were using the paddles.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But when I opened my eyes, this doctor's face was right in my face, and he was yelling, stay with us, stay with us. And then I passed out. The next thing I know, they're handing me this button and telling me about it. And it was amazing. Okay,
so you died on the operating table twice. That essentially equated to you became susceptible to, you became a recipient of a whole array of things, instances, circumstances that before you had never been aware of. Would that be pretty accurate? That you were now open to a lot of things that you never were really much concerned with or were aware of various existences before that.
Yeah, that, and I also had some abilities that I didn't have before. Like I can know when people are going to die, and that it kind of freaks me out.
Okay.
But only I'll look in people's eyes, and I know they have, if they're short timing or not.
Okay. Maybe it's a good thing you're not in the studio right now.
Really, but only I don't see that a lot. But I also know if somebody's got diseases or cancer, or if they're really bad, I can tell. I can feel people's emotions, even if I'm not even looking at them. Like somebody could walk up behind me, and I can know if it's a man or a woman, if they're angry, if they're not angry, all kinds of stuff. when I go in malls or a lot of people, sometimes I have to like shut that off because it kind of freaks me out. It's too much.
I see stuff like this on TV, and I'm not susceptible to that kind of thing. I'd be one of the first people to have to admit it. I've been a skeptic of all of the things to which you've been susceptible until I saw a UFO and until I told you about my Sasquatch story. But the way that you portray that, are you like a medium? It seems as though you're kind of like it, but not really, because you don't really go out of your way to do anything with that particular aspect, do you?
The only one when Jeff and I were doing the Paranormal Central, we never broadcasted or talked about it or anything like that. Okay. But I can tell if something's haunted or not. And I also could tell you what room it's in. I could tell you all kinds of things about it, even as I walk up to the building or things like that. And I also can command them to like leave and stuff like that, and they leave. And it's interesting, it took a while for me to figure out what I was doing and what the whole thing, but I started putting myself in the what would you say, situations to make sure that this just isn't my mind playing with me,
right?
Or because at first you think it's just your imagination running wild, but after several times being in the situation and every time it being 100% right, 100% right, and freaking out all the people around you.
Yeah.
I mean, that, and I don't even hardly think anything of it, and I'm, talking about it and saying things, and then I look around and everybody's eyes are really big, and especially the people that know the history of wherever I'm at, and they're like, oh my God, But I try to keep it to myself really as much as possible most of the time.
So that really was literally a life-changing event in and of itself. Just having died on an operating table, not once but twice, would be enough to change one's viewpoint on any number of topics, including life itself, obviously. Let's see. I'm not
afraid to die now. I'm not afraid to die at all.
Okay, well, that's one massive change because you've seen, been there, etc. But it also leaves you open to being able to perceive certain things that beforehand you were not. We got about 30 more seconds or about a minute before the bottom of the hour break. When we come back, I want to talk to an outcome, a terrible outcome of one of the things that Alan Thomas went in for, his leg surgery. And now Alan has what's called, correct me if I get this right, I think I've got it right, CRPS, which is Complex Regional Pain Syndrome. So when we come back, that's another issue entirely. You now have to live your life as a susceptible individual, and your life is changed because the world of pain never leaves you. And I don't think people understand what that entails. So, folks, we're listening to Alan Thomas. He's here with me, BZ, on the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back after this break. And I want to continue to talk to Alan Thomas, who is my guest for the full hour tonight, about CRPS, what it really is, what it does to you, how it affects your life, and there are a whole bunch of other issues that are involved as well. So be right back after this. Don't go away.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
New show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
We are back. We are back. It's 8:35 p.m. Pacific on the left coast. It's 11:36 now p.m. on the east coast. In Bolivia, it's 1727.725 subcluster 4, Groot cluster 3, subparagraph 4 in Bolivian time, which no one has really adequately explained Bolivian time to me. It's a cipher. It's a mystery to me. We have Alan Thomas on the show tonight as I adjust the little ball on my Santa hat right here so that I can see. And Alan Thomas has been kind enough to say that he will be here for the entire hour. Before the break, I wanted to ask Alan about what is CRPS. It's something that he has that I'm guessing he acquired from the surgery, that the surgery that he had did not solve this problem, but instead made it worse. CRPS is complex regional pain syndrome. And Alan, can you tell people, you did get it from the, number one, you did get it following the operation then, right?
Yeah, it was caused by lack of blood oxygen for an extended period of time. It killed the nerves in the leg, and then it also, whatever nerves, like the major nerve that goes, the femoral nerve, just lies right next to the femoral artery. When they were dicing the clot up, they diced up the nerve. So they kind of damaged it. And then the brain took it, kind of got cross-wired, and it thinks that there's still damage. So it's registering as a fresh, nerve dicing surgery there still at that site. And then also, it kind of spread into the leg, and then it's spread into the kidneys and some other, it messes with your, I don't know what your nervous system, the ones that control things that you don't control, like
autonomic, right?
Yeah, it messes with that. So I'll bust out sweating for no reason, and sometimes like maybe just my leg will be sweating. Sometimes my whole body will be sweating. It'll make your blood pressure spike really bad because the arteries and blood vessels will constrict. The muscles will just go haywire, and they'll all constrict, and all of a sudden you have 210 blood pressure. And then it could go the other way, and it'll release, and then the next thing you know, you only got 40 blood pressure, and you're falling on the ground, and you can't see because there's no blood, Yeah, I mean, your brain needs it to be able to function, like hear and see and stuff like that. So it goes back and forth like that. And then there's the pain part, where it gives you, I don't know if everybody is familiar, it's called allodynia. And it's like a breeze just blowing across your leg will feel like somebody just put a torch to you, or water, or actually anything, your pants, your sheet, anything. And it'll hurt for days. And sometimes it feels like your whole leg is stuck in a barbecue grill, flame on and all that, and no way to stop it. So, and then from what I understand, this is not an unknown thing. They just don't know about how it works because it's in your brain. And they used to call it causalgia in like the Civil War.
Okay.
And then they changed it to reflex sympathetic dystrophy. And now, a few years ago, they changed it to the CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome. Because they don't understand.
In the chat room, Alaskan asks, have they tried to do an RFA for your pain?
I have no idea what RFA is.
Okay, well, we'll address that. And Alaskan in chat, explain what RFA is, if you would. In any event, medical people say, or they'll have you after an operation say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, describe your current pain. So first question about your pain situation is this pain constant? And the second question is, on a sliding scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, what's your standard fashion in which you customarily operate on that scale? What number?
7, 8 is about normal.
God.
And then if I walk around or go to the mall or Walmart or Costco or take a shower sometimes or be out in a breeze, then it could peg a 10 and then it'll stay that way for something like a week or 3 days, 4 days.
And doesn't that Alan, that has to affect everything you do. How can a person's brain operate or function in life under pain, in that constant amount of pain? How does that happen? How can you do that?
Well, for the first 5 years, I didn't handle it well. And I pretty much was begging the doctor to cut my leg off every single time I went over there.
God.
And he kept telling me, no, that's not going to help. I'm like, you gotta help, just finish it off and just cut it off. I mean, you guys saved it, but it's still not working, And then but after 5 years, I finally decided that I wasn't going to let it beat me. I'm a fighter. I'm not going to let it win. So then I'm going to do what I can do, and I'm going to quit focusing on the pain and what I can't do, and I'm going to do what I can do as much as I can until I can't.
All right.
And in fact, like a lot of people get mad at me because I would still be working with Jeff on Paranormal Central, but I cannot work at his pace. I can't. And so, he's like, well, if you can't keep up, then you got to get out, and I agree, you're pretty much worthless if you can't count on somebody. And I told him, I can't even count on me, for my own things. Like, I can make a plan, and then the next minute my plan's not even for my own, like what I want to do. Like my YouTube channel. Everybody wants me to be consistent. Well, how do you be consistent when you can't be consistent?
Yeah.
When you can, then you're on, and when you can't, you're off. And, that's it. I just got to deal with it. And I can't get myself down. I can't let the depression, because that's the other thing that people don't understand is you don't have depression as a disease. Depression comes if you dwell on all the, what the circumstances are. Like, man, I want to come on every Thursday night, but I can't, and if you dwell on that, you'll start going into depression. And I fought that,
It's got to affect you psychologically. Here's an example. I got the Alaskan on here. Alaskan, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
How's it going, buddy?
Great. The Alaskan is on. You mentioned in chat, you asked, had Alan tried RFA for the pain? And rather than describe what RFA is, maybe you can talk to Alan about what that is and what you mean when you say RFA.
RFA is the technical term for it. It's radio frequency ablation, or I don't know
ablation.
What the A stands for. But effectively, what it does is they sever the nerve. They cut the nerve. I have had that happen to me. I've had that, and I'm about ready to go back in and get another one because I do have a pain, and it's a referred pain coming out of my back. And, the pain is in my stomach, but the affected nerve is actually right where it comes out of out of my spine. So what they do is they go in and would sever the nerve, so my pain would actually go away that I would have in my gut. Now, there's a few things that I would want to know first about it, is because if that nerve is a nerve that controls muscles and stuff, I don't think they would probably do that. But it might be something to where they can find that nerve itself and cut it so that your pain goes away. Now, I don't know. I would assume that the doctors have probably thought of it, but they haven't. Doesn't sound like they've mentioned it to you. But
was that an option that you knew about, Alan?
Huh?
Yeah, we talked about it. And that, like, when I brought up, when I would tell them I want my leg cut off, that would be, in essence, cutting the nerve.
Right.
Right.
But only the brain will still sense that it'll think that it's still there. In fact, they've done these, and it's the most horrendous test ever. It's called the EMG, whatever it is. They shock the nerve 10 times, and then they calculate. They do both legs, and then they see how the nerve fires. And they can time it down the leg.
Yeah.
And they hold me down to do it, but they did it, and he couldn't believe. And then I'm talking about my good leg, right? He had to hold me down. On the left, my bad leg wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel it. But they did that test, and he was saying they didn't detect any nerve firing, from where they shocked it down to where it would catch the signal, and it wouldn't. Yeah. There was no. So they talked about that, but they said it wouldn't really do anything. The brain would still think it's there, and I would still feel like even that my leg was still there. And the pain would be there, just like if it was there, even if they cut my leg off, so it wasn't worth cutting it off because I could still use it. And
yeah,
it's a good thing.
Well, that's like Jack brought up in chat. He said that he lost the top of one of his fingers, but he still feels the splinter he got under the nail. And I asked him, is that, kind of a lost limb kind of a feeling? And he said, yes, phantom limb syndrome. So if you had your leg cut off, Alan, I guess, though that might think that it would relieve some of the pain, you could still be susceptible to phantom limb syndrome. My guess would be, because I've heard of other people getting that the pain is still there. The limb is gone, but you still feel as though it's there.
Yep. They told me it would be 100%.
Alan, have they severed that nerve?
Yeah, when they diced it up when they did the surgery, and they told me that it would take 2 years for me to know what the permanent damage was, because that's how long it takes for it to grow back together.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't, as far as I know, it might not have grown back together. They said the nerve was dead completely.
Yeah. Well, apparently not. Apparently they lied like bastards. I'm looking at CRPS, and I'm looking at the website. It said, and you mentioned some of these already, Alan. It said, changes in skin texture on the affected area. It may appear shiny and thin. Abnormal sweating patterns in the affected area or surrounding areas. Change in nail and hair growth patterns. Stiffness in affected joints. Problems coordinating muscle movement. Decreased ability to move the affected body part. Abnormal movement in the affected limb, most often fixed abnormal posture called dystonia, but also tremors in or jerking of the limb. Have you experienced things like that also, Alan?
Oh, yeah. In fact, Jeff never believed me. And one day we were doing a photo op, and the photographer was having us bunched together. And I told her, put me on his left side so that I could lean on my left leg.
Okay.
And she kept saying, no, I want you on, or put me on his right side, and I could lean on my left leg and lean in towards him so we were all bunched up.
Okay.
But she wanted me on his left side, leaning on my right leg. Within, 5 or 6 minutes, my leg, the right leg with all the weight on it, is about to give out. So it's just shaking uncontrollably. And I'm so close to Jeff that it's banging on his leg, right? My knee is banging his knee. And he kept looking at me. He's like, stop that. I told him I can't stop. In fact, if this lady doesn't listen to me, I'm going to fall down because I can't control that. And I mean, it was visibly freaking everybody out, but she still refused, and then I couldn't walk for 2 days after that photo shoot. And then after that, that's when Jeff was like, I don't know if you can keep working with me, because, I couldn't hike anywhere. Sometimes I would miss the show because I couldn't get out of bed, but hey, so that was the day when he freaked out. It was like, oh my God, he's not lying, because he always thought I was fibbing.
Okay. Well, thanks for the call, Alaskan. I appreciate that, sir.
Yeah,
sir.
Good luck.
Thank you. I want to ask you about drugs now. How do you treat this stuff? I'm looking at CRPS site, and it says drugs to treat CRPS include, and then it lists a whole bunch of stuff, including a bunch of opioids. So how is this treated, and are you held at arm's length by doctors because they live in mortal fear of having anything to do with opioids and you? How do you treat this?
Well, they have me on like 3 different kinds of blood pressure medicine to help control the muscle function on the blood vessels. And then for a while, though, I could have anything I wanted. The doctor would give me anything I wanted because they understand. They know. Only where my problem came in was the pharmacy.
Okay.
They act like the gatekeeper. And even still today, I've been with the same. You can't change pharmacy. As soon as you walk into another pharmacy with the drugs that I walk in with, they immediately say, no way, we don't take people like that, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, especially this last 2 years. It's been terrible. Now, before, my pharmacy wouldn't mess with me so much. They changed pharmacists. I go to CVS, they change the pharmacist, and you would think, hey, the guy could look at my record, on the computer.
Right.
But every one of them treats me like I just walked in the door, like he did. And then they start not ordering the meds, and they put me through hell every single time. And some of them never get over it. The whole year that I have to deal with this person, they're constantly trying to say I'm a drug-seeking individual. It's like, have you looked at my, what the pills that I've been getting, for 20 years, have you looked? If I was seeking it, yeah, I am kind of seeking it, but not in the way that you think I'm seeking it. And, right, I've been fighting with them just recently, again. And I'm on the lowest dose that I could take. The doctor, he wants to up my dose and give me more methadone or all these different things. And, and I'm like, no, you're just make it harder for me with the pharmacy. I'd rather be in pain and a little bit of pain than deal with these people and then put me in withdrawal. Because then the pain's off the chart. There's no.
I'm looking at the CRPS site, and this is heavy-duty stuff. Some of the things they recommend are corticosteroids, okay. Opioids, such as oxycodone, morphine, hydrocodone, fentanyl. NMDA, receptor antagonists. That's heavy-duty shit. And dextromethorphan and ketamine. Ketamine is an animal tranquilizer. Ketamine is what is used to knock out horses by veterinarians. This is extremely extremely heavy duty, and it's not going away ever, is it, Alan?
No, that was one of the things. Okay, like, because a doctor or a hospital hurt me, or the medical people hurt me, they hid it for 3 years. And that was the statute of limitations. After 3 years, then I couldn't sue. And I had no idea. I mean, I got an attorney and everything because I knew something happened, but I didn't know what at that point. Then at 3.5 years, my doctor sent me, they were saying that I had, they thought it was a pinched nerve in the back causing it. So they sent me to get back surgery. And when I got to that guy, he sent me to another vascular surgeon. And I went into this vascular surgeon. I never saw him before. No doctor really wanted to see me until after the 3-year thing was up. And then after that, everybody would talk to me because they knew they were safe from a lawsuit. Well, this guy sets me down, and he's crying. And I'm like, I don't know what to think. You know, this guy's crying. He's looking at my medical chart, and he's crying. And then he starts telling me, you know, I'm going to give you some really, really, really bad news. And I'm like, well, what is it? And he starts telling me via RSD, CRPS. And I didn't know what that was at all. And he explained to me they knew about it since Civil War and all these things. And then he says, it's like a death sentence, but you're not going to die.
Great.
But you're going to live. And he says, what I'm telling you is this is the suicide disease. It's the highest pain known, you know, even getting your leg cut off without anesthetics or stuff like that. It's higher than all the pains, even cancer and stuff like that. And he said they hardly could deal with it. He goes, but you're going to have to deal with it somehow. And he goes, I hate telling you this, you know. And then I was crying with him, you know, and I had really no idea why. I mean, that just sounded like bad news. When I got home and I started reading what you're reading on the internet, then it was like, oh my, it started making sense. What I was feeling, what I was going through, and then they're spelling it out and then saying I'm not going to die, but I'm going to have this the rest of my life. And it could spread. And it has. It's in my left arm. It's in my kidneys. It's all up in my body. It's messing me up. Really seriously messing me up.
We got about a minute left before the top of the hour break. With luck, you suspected I was going to ask you this. Alan Thomas, who we're speaking to right now, would you be open to hanging on for a little bit longer after the break, Alan?
Yeah. I'll stay the whole hour you want, man. I love talking with you.
The reason is because we've still got some people that want to talk about Sasquatches or Sasquatching or the paranormal, that kind of thing. And I think Simone is interested in that. And so, folks, we're talking to Alan Thomas. We're going to continue talking to Alan about CRPS and how that affects him. We've never spoken about it before, and I am always in marvel of the way that Alan is resolutely cheerful every damn time I talk to him, speak to him. He's the sweetest guy in the world, the nicest, kindest man in the world, and yet he's operating in that world, in the world of pain. So when we come back after the break, we will continue to talk to Alan Thomas about CRPS, and then we might be able to transmogrify into some UFO stuff, some paranormal stuff, some unexplained stuff, and maybe some Sasquatch stuff. I'm BZ, the bloviating Zeppelin. That's Alan Thomas, to whom we are speaking tonight. And you're listening to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern. Only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
New show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is the second hour of the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. 2 miles. A veritable 2 miles, just a minimal 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the Bill Mill, that evil edifice, the Capitol building at 10th and L Street downtown in Sacramento. We are talking to Alan Thomas. Did so through the entire first hour, and we're going to have him for a little bit longer, which is very kind of you, Alan. I appreciate that. I will tell you again, folks, we've been speaking to Alan for about CRPS and the pain that results from the I guess, well, no guessing. It was a botched operation that now, because of circumstances, he cannot essentially do anything about in terms of suit, etc. But it is a life-encompassing and a life-altering event in two areas. Dying on the table twice made him susceptible to some things around him that the rest of us may not be aware of. And the second is that he's the loving recipient of CRPS, which is an almost intolerable amount of pain that Alan has to live through every day. There is no cure per se in terms of attempting to alleviate the pain. He's had numerous issues with doctors and pharmacies, and despite that, if you were to ever meet Alan, and I have a number of times, I'd still love to get him up here in the studio, but when you meet Alan or talk to him, he's one of those guys whom immediately the aura from him is, this is a cool guy. I really want to talk to this guy. I'd like to hear his story. And then when he talks to you, you're put at ease. He's one of the most likable guys that I've ever met in the entire universe. If you were to talk to him or meet him, you would feel the exact same way, which is why I say when he's on the Squatch Zone, go to his YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, put in Squatch Zone, and then subscribe to his channel, give him a like, and then when he has a show, you'll be able to see his show, and then go watch and listen to his show. And he also has another channel on YouTube called Sky Squatchin'. Did I get that right? Please, Alan, tell me I got that right. Sky Squatchin'?
Yes, you sure did.
Okay. I do still have a little bit of a memory.
You know what's cool? Not a lot of people have heard of the CRPS. Hardly at all. Even doctors, nurses, hospitals, they get taught maybe one paragraph, and that's it in medical school. Because it's not real rare, but it's pretty rare. So they don't really cover it. And people don't know, and people don't understand. And when you say you have it, even to a doctor or a hospital or something like that, they immediately think you're lying. Immediately. And recently, I was sent, my doctor's like, hey, we've tried everything. And I have another disease that I had ever since I was a kid. I was born with it, I think. And it's real rare, another rare one, called Meniere's disease. And it's an inner ear thing. And it causes vertigo. So a lot of the meds they give you affect your balance and stuff like that. And I can't take them because of this vertigo, put you into a spin. And you might spin for several hours until the med wears off,
Holy crap.
So they told me, maybe, and, I'm not one to, I don't like drugs really at all. And they told me, well, maybe you can try the THC, weed.
Okay.
I'm like, what? So they send me to this doctor, and he's a doctor that gives prescriptions for this stuff, And I go in there, and he's reading what I wrote down of why and what my doctor sent him, And the guy is glaring at me, and I didn't know why. I mean, he just looks at me like he's going to eat me alive or slap me or something. And he says, so RSD, right? He's calling it RSD. He says, you say you have RSD? I go, that's what they say, And he says, I'll be right back. And he comes back and he has a spray bottle. And I'm wearing shorts and flip-flops, and he says, which leg is it? And I point to it. And then he sprays this whatever's in the bottle on my leg, and it immediately sets me on fire. And I start climbing off the chair backwards, climbing away from him. And I'm yelling at him like, what in the hell is in that bottle? And I'm getting pretty mad, don't you dare spray that one more time.
Yeah.
and I'm really getting after him, and he starts laughing, and I go, this is not funny, and I don't even understand what this guy's up to. I'm ready to, like, kick him with my goodlet. And he starts laughing. He goes, I'll be right back, And I climb back in the chair, and he comes back with a cream, and he starts rubbing it on the leg, and it has ketamine and all this weird stuff in it. And he's telling me, okay, you're the first guy that came in here that isn't lying. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, people, they come in here, my fingernail hurts or something. Everybody wants a prescription to get marijuana, and they'll say anything. And he said, and I know what RSD is because I was a pain management doctor, and I understand, what it is, and I know what sets it off. And he goes, your reaction, you couldn't control. He goes, you couldn't even fake that, what happened just a few minutes ago. And I still wanted to kick him.
No kidding.
I was refreshed a little bit that somebody knew what it was and how to do a simple little test
to find out.
Yeah. And then he told me I could have as much marijuana as I wanted. It's like, I'm not really into it, but, whatever. And I don't really, what I found with marijuana is I don't care, right? I have all the pain, but I don't care. It makes it where you don't care, but only it also makes it where you eat a lot, you sleep a lot, or you try to sleep a lot, and I mean it was like, okay, I tried it for a little while. I'll just stick with the little pills that I take. I can manage. I'll just stay like that, Thanks for everything, but no thanks.
Well. The article that I'm reading is from, let's see, nids.nih.gov. And they're telling me all about the prognosis, the treatment, a host of heavy damn duty drugs. Let's see, this is a paper from the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, NINDS. And they're saying that there is current research. They're doing peripheral nerve injury studies, but at this point, they're trying to coordinate what's the difference or how is this nerve pain linked to limb inflammation, the release of various ATPs, abnormal connections, the signaling between all the nerves, etc. So the basic thing is, at this point, they don't really have much. So has anybody indicated to you something similar to, somewhere down the line, Alan, I think we're going to be able to get a handle on this. Has anybody said that to you at all?
No. In fact, some people come at, like some doctors that I've seen, they come at me with rage because they can't fix me, or anyone else, And what a really sad thing is that, how when you get something or your life changes, so you look online and you try to find, like with Bigfoot, you try to find other people that have seen a Bigfoot, or, I wanted to find other people that had CRPS.
Right.
And I joined back in the day there, before Facebook and all that, it was forums, and you could join a forum for this or that or whatever. And I found all these CRPS forums, and I learned a lot from the people, and we actually migrated to Facebook. So a whole bunch of us migrated to Facebook. We're all friends for years, all suffering with CRPS in different parts of our body and from different reasons and stuff like that. But I've lost 6 of them to suicide.
Oh, Jesus.
And one of them actually committed suicide while I was on the phone with them, and I didn't know.
Oh,
just all of a sudden the whole thing went silent. And that's the part where people, I really, November, is it November? Let's see, October. Yeah, November is CRPS Awareness Month. So every day I was posting one thing about CRPS on my Facebook. And so were all the other, just so that we get awareness, so that people don't Because if they treat them like a drug seeker, they tell you it's all in your head, and really it is kind of. Your brain is screwed up.
Well, right. It's misinterpreting those signals and amplifying those signals.
Right. And if you don't treat people right and you give them a hard time and they already are on the edge already, it doesn't take much to push them over. And so I think it's really cool that we're talking about it, and I hope a lot of people go look it up and read about it, and they may even have family that has it and they don't even know they have it. You know, and everybody just says, "Oh, here comes that complain whiner person," you know, and they just shun them or tell them, "Oh man, you know, you need to get off those drugs, and aren't you better yet? You know, don't you ever get well?" You know, I mean, that's what they tell everyone that has what I have, and me too. And the doctor will say, "It's all in your head," but not meaning it like that. That, you know, the cross-wired thing, they're meaning that you're making it up in your head, you know. So, I mean, it's really bad, and I'm glad we're talking about this, or that we have.
This is what, obviously, clearly, it frustrates the hell out of you. But just to listen to you talk about the situation in the way that you portray this to doctors, and, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, any of these doctors that you've spoken to, all the information about you being diagnosed with this is available for them to see, and despite their ability to see, know, and understand it, you still encounter doctors or physicians or maybe even nurses that don't believe that you have this and that all you're there for are drugs. That is still astounding to me.
And you know what I get told? Like I wanted to switch, you know, my doctor might retire, and that scares the hell out of me, right?
Yeah.
Because I went and looked around for other doctors and check around. They will not write a pain prescription for opiates. And I don't even take that. I only take the hydrocodone or Norco.
Right.
And I only take maybe 4, maybe 6 a day, a couple at a time. I mean, that's nothing. I have friends that, or even myself, I was on they gave me morphine and these patches. And I mean, I was on them for probably 7 years. And I went cold turkey. I almost killed myself. But by going cold turkey, it almost killed me. But I didn't want to be in that stupor. And I knew I was in one, but I didn't realize how bad I was in it until about 4 months after I had detoxed. And I didn't take any more pain pills for about 2.5 years, but I was sitting there about 3 months after, 4 months, and my wife's like, "Welcome back." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Welcome back to the world." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She says, "I have not talked to you in a long time." I was like, whoa, you know. Then it really hit home, like, wow, you know, I'm not ever going back to that again, ever. But after 2.5 years of no meds, I couldn't get out of bed, ever. So there was no squatching, there was no YouTube, there was no nothing, just pain all the time. So when I went back to the doctor, I'm like, please, you know, let's go back to some pain meds, but let's be reasonable here, you know, just give me enough to take the edge off and I'll deal with the rest of it. I don't want to be stupefied, but then I don't want to be all the way in pain either. So let's find a happy medium. And we worked together and we found that. And that's where I'm at. But only now I'm scared because the doctor might retire. You know, he's in his 70s. So,
right.
Like, oh man, you know, if I lose this guy, I am going to be way out of luck.
Let me throw this. I just thought of this. Alan Thomas. We're talking to Alan Thomas. You can find him on, he has 2 YouTube channels. He's a paranormal, Sasquatch, UFO, unexplained researcher, investigator, and hunter. He died twice on the operating table, and that made him susceptible to a lot of things that you and I do not see, feel, and hear. He also has CRPS, which is complex regional pain syndrome. And in the process of talking to you in the past couple of minutes, I thought, okay, ask Alan this. You have a Facebook page, Alan Thomas on Facebook. If people have CRPS or have been diagnosed with CRPS, can they talk to you or text you on Facebook to have you kind of explain how things go with them? Is that something that, at the end of the show, I always post. I post the show on my website and on various pieces of social media. Is that something that you would consider people with CRPS maybe interchanging or speaking to you or writing to you about that?
Absolutely. And I also will get them in touch with groups of people, because when they call it a flare, like you'll do, like me, I'll go hiking, bigfooting, and I'll go for a weekend and I'll really overdo it. You know what I mean? But I'll never stop overdoing it.
Right.
But only I'll overdo it, and then I go into what they call a flare, where nothing touches it. You can't walk, you can't move, you're almost blinding pain. And these, sometimes they can last like a week. But only when you get in those, sometimes it's good to have someone to talk to talk you down from you start running wild, in your thoughts, and you start getting out of control with your thoughts, you start thinking stupid stuff, it might hurt yourself or something. It's good to have someone, to talk you down.
I would agree. I'm not going to give people your phone number or email or anything like that, but I will make this offer. Folks, if you know someone or if you are an individual with CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome, you can contact Alan on Facebook. If you happen to be on Facebook, it would be worth joining Facebook, I would expect, just to be able to talk to Alan and others who have CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome. And if you hit him with a message or contact him on his Facebook page, it's Alan, Allen, Thomas, common spelling. On Facebook, Alan has said that he would be willing to talk to you because you find yourselves in times of extreme, excruciating pain. And it's nice to have somebody who knows what it's like and what you're going through. And Alan has been kind enough to say that he'll chat with you, and he'll make some recommendations of things that you can do, places that you can go, forums, etc., of people with CRPS, because you need to know and understand that you're not alone.
Right.
You're not the only person with this, and you don't need to suffer alone. And so I think that's an amazing thing that you've done, to be able to chat to somebody that like you. You didn't just get this yesterday. You've been having to deal with this literally for years.
Yeah.
And you're still a positive guy.
It's trippy. The day of the surgery where they saved the leg, got the clot out.
Right.
April 1st, 2000. So it's some kind of bad joke, right? Like an April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really an April Fool's joke. It was the real thing. But it's all, when you think about it, like for me, like we were at the hospital recently to go see someone else at that hospital, the one. And I could barely even maintain when I was walking around in there. I wanted to lash out at everyone, say, this isn't fair, But I know they have no idea, But, man, I get the heebie-jeebies when I go near that hospital, believe me. Kind of weird.
I want to end with this. We're going to hit the bottom of the hour break in about 3 or 4 minutes. But I want to hit this because people, they have very little understanding or knowledge of history. And I was, I guess you could say I was really interested in a couple of things maybe 10, 20 years ago. One of them was the Titanic, and the other one was Howard Hughes because of his reclusive nature and the fact that it was a massive contrast to this guy who was a billionaire. What a lot of folks don't know is that he was in 3 major aircraft crashes. One was in a Sikorsky S-43. The other one was when he was doing some flying on biplanes. That's how long ago his career lasted. And then he was in the process of attempting to create a new fighter for the U.S. Army Air Corps. It was a reconnaissance aircraft, the XS-11. It had 2 huge engines, counter-rotating props, and he went down on the Los Angeles Country Club golf course. He crashed into a surrounding Beverly Hills neighborhood. The plane caught on fire. He burned. He was in terrible pain, massive injuries, crushed collarbone, tons of cracked ribs, crushed chest, collapsed left lung. It shifted his heart to the right side of his chest cavity. He got huge third-degree burns. There was a guy, a Marine, who pulled him out of that wreck, and he sent that Marine a big check for the remainder of this guy's life for pulling him out of the wreck. What a lot of people don't know is they think that, well, he did have OCD, and he'd had that for quite a number of years. And, of course, he had a massive physical decline. He was eccentric, to say the least. I think he died. He went to the Desert Inn, I think, in 1966, and then people pretty much just didn't see him from that point on.
I bet he had a CRPS.
That's what I'm getting to. He died on April 5th of 1976. It was 1:27 p.m. It was a jet, and they were flying him from his penthouse in Acapulco to, he was going to go to the Methodist Hospital in Houston. He died en route in that plane. He was 6'4" tall. When he passed away, he was 90 pounds. They didn't recognize him. They had to use fingerprints to identify the body. He had kidney failure. That was listed as the cause of death. But he suffered from absolute just neglect. He had malnutrition. He was covered in bed sores. His kidneys were damaged. Other internal organs, including his brain, they were perfectly healthy. He was found to have up to 20 broken needles in his arm, in the flesh of his arms. He injected codeine into his muscles. He used glass syringes with metal needles that easily, obviously, became detached in his arms because he began to inject himself. He died in 1976. Let's see. How old was he? He was 70. He was only 70 when he passed away. And I can distinctly remember someone on a television show saying that he didn't understand how this Howard Hughes had lived as long as he did because of the massive amount of never-ending pain, chronic pain that he was in, that this doctor said would have killed probably 95% of the population, and yet this guy kept functioning, at least in terms of running his business, etc. And I never forgot that.
Like I was told that some people, like me, they did a DNA test on me to see if that I would like presupposed drug addict or whatever. They want to find out all these different things. Well, one of the things that came back was pain, how you deal with it. And I didn't believe the test. It said that I had a high pain tolerance. And then one day I was having a little shoulder ache, just a little one. But it was bugging me for about a day. And I went in the hospital for something else, and I complained about my shoulder ache, and they had done some blood work on me. And when they checked the blood work, they found out I was having a massive heart attack. And they rushed me in to save my life. I have 4 heart stents. And they said, we don't even know how you're alive. But only some people deal with pain different. Their body naturally can. I don't think I always was like that. I just think after so long of pain, you're able to command your brain to turn it off at least as much as you can. You can't turn all of it off, but you can desensitize yourself somehow.
But you just had to deal with it. You just had to deal with it because there's no other opportunity. It cannot be fixed. It cannot be repaired. Alan Thomas, we're going to continue talking. I'd like to go into UFOs, Sasquatches, Fresno, and a whole bunch of other stuff when we come back. We're speaking to Alan Thomas. He's been kind enough to be here for the entire 2 hours. The phone lines are going to be open, and they have been. 209-284-3210 if you want to ask Alan about anything paranormal, UFO, Sasquatch in orientation, the unexplained, etc. And we will be back right after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty void in Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's the final 25 minutes of the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting from the palatial, resplendent, and beautimous SHR Media Studios behind enemy lines in occupied California. Spell it with a K, always. We've been speaking to Alan Thomas tonight and will continue to speak with him for the full 2 hours. We've been speaking for the past, probably at least an hour now or more, about how Alan got to be where he is today, what he's done in the past, his YouTube channels, and how he's handling CRPS, which is Complex Regional Pain Syndrome. And that's to say, we're chatting that Alan said in chat, the doctor told my wife if she asks me about chest pain and I say it's a 3, dial 911. And, like I said, what could be a 3 to Alan could be a 12 to somebody else. And that's pretty scary. Yeah. You've kind of had to tamp down your pain and what you operate, the stage in which you operate now that you think is normal. And let me ask you point blank, are you in pain right now? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how painful is it? What kind of a pain condition are you in right now from 1 to 10?
Right now, my foot and ankle is probably at a 9.
Oh God.
And then where your leg bends on the right leg, that's where the surgery was. That's like almost a 10, number 9.5. But the rest of me feels pretty good. In between, what do you call that? Where your leg bends at the hip and the ankle, the allodynia is probably around an 8. Like the skin feeling like somebody rubbed my leg with sandpaper.
And that's a standard under which you operate 24/7. And that you get sleep is amazing. That you can sit or stand is amazing. We talked about the various I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
The lack of sleep is the worst part of it. Because when the light, the best pain medicine, and I know we got to switch gears pretty quick, but the best pain medicine I found is distraction.
Okay.
Games, TV, conversations with people, keeping yourself busy. As soon as the lights go out and there's no distraction, then all you can think about is the pain. You just focus on it.
Okay.
And that's when the battle really begins, right? That right there.
Well, I certainly understand that. You are in the Fresno area. You don't actually live directly in Fresno, but you're kind of in the Fresno area. We're in Sacramento right now at the studio. That's about a 4.5 hour drive south from Sacramento in Fresno. And yet Fresno is one of the places that you wouldn't think of as being paranormal, unexplained, UFO, Sasquatch oriented, and yet it turns out that Fresno is somehow this kind of massive magnet of all kinds of strange, unexplained things. Can you give us, Alan Thomas, a little bit of an update in terms of what has been happening, perhaps in the world of Sasquatch, and or perhaps what's been happening in any Sasquatch sightings or UFO sightings, or any other kind of odd sightings or updates that have occurred, kind of in the Fresno area, and or things that you may have encountered or seen yourself recently? Kind of an update, if you will.
Well, recently, everything's on the uptick. Orbs, UFOs, Bigfoot, Dogman. You know, all of a sudden I've been hearing about Dogman. People are seeing Dogman. And then also that dinosaur that flies, pterodactyl.
Oh, pterodactyl, right.
Yeah, pterodactyls off the charts. But recently, during deer season, I got all kinds of reports, and one of them was east of Fresno at a lake. I mean, this is really interesting, so I'll tell you about it. And it's recent, like September. There was a guy, he wasn't hunting, he was fishing, and he seen this orb come over the mountain, flying over the trees, and then it came down to the lake and was hovering about 2 feet off the water, moving towards him. I guess not hovering, but moving towards him. And when it got about 50 yards from him, it dove into the drink and went into the lake. Or maybe it was even close. Maybe it was 5 yards. Yeah, 5 yards. I mean, it was coming right at him and starting to freak him out. And then right as it hit the water and went under, a Bigfoot comes running out of the woods behind him, runs smack by him 2 feet away, and then dives in almost exactly where the orb went under. And then he didn't see the Bigfoot again, but he didn't stick around either. He said, he was making tracks. He made it to his truck and he got out of there. And that's a recent one. And then we have this weird thing that has been going on for 3 years now. And usually in the summertime, it dies off. You don't get too many calls. And then here now it's as fall hits around October, everything picks up again around the rivers in the valley. And if the river runs through a city, then the Bigfoot reports are in the city. And we're going to be checking that out here in the next few weeks. That's where we're going to be looking in this little town of Reedley. You guys can Google that or, Google Earth it and look and see how the river runs through there. But it actually, the Bigfoot reports run way off at the headwaters of the Kings River, way up in the mountains, all the way down past Reedley, just all along the river. And we strategically pick areas where people have rocks thrown at them and hear like big screams that pierce them or rattle them really bad, ear piercing or body shaking, screams and growls and stuff. And so that's where we're at right now with Bigfoot. And the UFOs, they're high flyers right now. Nothing really low, I haven't heard. But only like the other day, someone's seen 100, estimating around 100 of them flying over them the other, 3 nights ago.
It's funny you should mention that. I'm looking at this site right now, Sputnik News, and it came out, now this is October. It says a big wake-up call, giant UFO over California reportedly seen by more than 100 witnesses. People believe that it couldn't be mistaken for a drone or a skydiving vessel. It didn't move, and it emitted no sound whatsoever. Now, that's an interesting point. I can see where people would think that UFOs could be confused with drones, but you and I both know that in their own loving little way, drones are loud as hell.
Yeah. And they're little.
Yeah.
I have one, and it can go 4 miles, but I don't think I ever went past a half a mile because I can't see it. The law is you have to be able to keep it in a visual. And when even in, at night with the flashing light, if it goes too far, I can't see it. So,
okay.
It would have to be right on top of you, pretty much, if it was a drone.
We have a call. So, caller, I don't know who you are, but I've put the number out. And if you're on video, you can see the number is 209-284-3210 if you want to call Alan Thomas. 209-284-3210. And there is a caller. Caller, who are you, please? And do you have a question or a comment for Alan Thomas?
Hi, BZ. Thank you for having Alan come back. This is Simone. Hi,
Oh.
Alan.
Hi, Simone.
Hey, so thank you for coming back, and thank you for educating us all more about what's been going on with your pain and your pain management issues, because I think awareness is real important, because if we don't have it, we may know somebody who has it. So thank you for that. In terms of the supernatural stuff that's going on, I was wondering, have there been any more dogman sightings? Because I think down in the South, like Mississippi and Louisiana, some of the stuff I've been reading is that they're not friends, they're enemies, and that the dogmen will hunt Sasquatch. Have you had any more dogman sightings?
That's what I hear. Now, there was a story, somebody, you know how Facebook is, where they can just add you to groups now? And all of a sudden I'm in like 50 million Facebook groups about, 500,000 Bigfoot ones and 500,000 Dogman ones and alien ones and you name it, I'm on it. But only the Dogman one, somebody, I think it was the Dogman one of them, somebody was talking about where they had been seeing the Dogman around their home, their acres where they live in the woods, and they had been having Bigfoot for a few years. But then they started having these Dogman ones, and the Dogman, they had one recently, like last week, and the Dogman had tore up a Bigfoot. And then mentally, the guy saw it happen, and the Dogman was like showing him the Bigfoot and saying, these are really the bad ones. We're not bad, they are. That's what he got in his brain, the mind speak or whatever you call it. And so I have no idea. I'm almost at the point now where I think all of them are bad. If there's something going on, then they're all bad.
I've been following, I think his name is Robert Morehouse. He's the one who did the Sounds of the Forest.
Right,
and he was hunting squatches, and then when he went home, they followed him home and were doing things to him. And then he started seeing all kinds of other paranormal things, like he started seeing grays, and he started, having other unusual things happen, and he was kind of weirded out by it all. And he ended up leaning on his Christian roots and, calling on heavenly protection, and all that stuff stopped. So I'm just kind of wondering if all of those aren't just forms of Nephilim, because, if you're biblical, if you read the Bible, the Watchers, who were angels and came down and were stuck down here because they were messing around with the women, and then they had babies that were giants. When those giants killed each other, their souls were kind of loose, and those souls were not allowed back in heaven, and so they're always looking for something to reincarnate into. And so there's a lot of speculation that the Greys are created beings, and maybe the souls of those giant people are in there, and maybe some of the same stuff with some of the Sasquatch. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I kind of feel the same way, and you know how, this is from years of research now, and I know a lot of people think this is whack, but they don't like talk to as many people as I do and research this stuff as much as I do. I hang out with people that have been abducted maybe all their lives. And one of my best friends that we go out all the time, he's been abducted a bunch of times. But what I think they do, when you talk to abductees, they scoop the skin, they take, their, but there's sperm.
They sample them, right.
Yeah, they sample all that stuff in there. They take the eggs from the women, and I have a feeling they are creating these containers by DNA or what we're seeing now, where they can clone and all that kind of thing. I think they always had that technology. I think they are making these container things, and that is for these spirits to be in.
Right. And I kind of agree with that, because when you read the Bible and they said, in there, that's why the flood happened, because genetics got all messed up. Not only were the angels making weird genetic things, but they infer that the people understood genetics too, and so that's why there were unicorns and half animal, half people kind of creatures around, because they wanted containers, right? And I don't know if I ever shared with you or people here. I saw a gray in my youth, and it scared the crap out of me. I was 12, and it was in the house. And as I was walking from my bedroom through my brother's bedroom and turning right into the bathroom, and I flicked on the light, and there was a little 4-foot gray. I startled him, or it, as well, and it ran one way and I ran the other. And then the next thing I know, I wake up in my bed. And it never occurred to me, I didn't start having my periods until I was like 19. And then as an adult, I never had a period every month. I had a period every other month. And it wasn't until just recently, since I've been doing a lot of research, I'm wondering if they didn't, scoop a bunch of eggs out of one of my ovaries and emptied one side, and that's why I only, every other month I had my thing going on, because the other one was shooting blanks.
Well, I hope that, maybe you might want to invoke Jesus' name, but I hope they're still not doing that, because the lion's share of people that I talked to that had even just seeing a UFO and then had a weird experience where then they were waking up, like what you just said, they continued to have experiences, but they never remembered them.
Huh.
And
well, my husband told me that I should consider having regression hypnosis, whatever. And I'm not sure I'm ready to find out the rest of it.
Yeah, I could talk to you later about that stuff off of the air too, but the lion's share of people I talk to, usually they'll only remember seeing something or something like that, and then they're waking up. And then when they get regressed or hypnotized or something like that, or in their dreams, they start realizing this has started happening from their childhood. And then also, if they have relatives alive still, if they're younger, usually they find out that this is something that was happening to some other family members. They might skip a generation.
Right. They follow the whole generation. They follow your family lineage.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I am interested in talking to you offline at some point, so hopefully BZ can put me in contact with you later. But yeah, I don't know if maybe it was there to grab my sister, or maybe it was there to grab someone else, and that's why I startled it. Or maybe it had just brought me back, and I woke up and I wasn't supposed to wake up. I don't know. But I do want to talk to you at some point. So thank you for coming back on the show.
Simone, before you go, you made an interesting point in chat. You said, because Alan Thomas was talking about Bigfoot and coming down into the valley, et cetera, and that there was more activity in the fall. And you pointed out in chat, Bigfoot travels the waterways. I'd be interested to find out if homeless people, if they might be seeing some strange things or encountering some strange things. Because at least in California, that's where a lot of folks live, near the parks and the waterways and whatnot, and the bikeway that we have in Sacramento. So that's kind of an interesting point, although I haven't heard anything about that. Have you, Alan Thomas?
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going out. Like a few years ago, we didn't encounter the homeless that much, but it's getting pretty bad nowadays.
Uh-huh.
And you're encountering them every place. There might be any kind of looking structure that they can get out of the weather, or they can make something, or there's places they could do that. We're running into them, and they come asking us questions like, what are you doing here, and stuff like that. And then when we tell them, they feel like it's safe that they could tell you their stories. But if we didn't say one thing about what we're doing there, they wouldn't have told us. But because we're open with it, then it's like, hey, dude, come here, man. Get away from some of the others, and then they tell you this story where this thing is messing with them, or breaking their structure down, or they stealing their food.
I think that the homeless population, or just like David Paulides on the 411, the missing people in the national parks, how he, those are campers, people in remote areas. I think that the homeless that camp along the rivers, first off, they're not tied to their families, so they're not going to be missed, and they're not friendly. They don't buddy up to people, and people don't buddy up to them. So there's not a lot of good communication. And I think, Alan, if you were able to collect stories like that, I think it would validate that there's more of them than we think there are.
That's what I'm working on right now, and that's just from people that have neighborhoods next more now that there's like sprawl or whatever you want to call it, where people they're picking waterways to live by, like most people live along the shoreline and stuff like that. So lakes and rivers, people are choosing to live in those areas now. There's lots more sightings and stuff like that from those places now.
Well, let's not forget too that besides the natural waterways, there's irrigation canals, and the whole San Joaquin Valley is irrigated. And we'll look at the L.A. River. I mean, that used to be a river, right? But that's a huge highway for people not to get noticed. And here in Sacramento, they're having a big problem with nutria, which are like gigantic guinea pigs, and also there's a lot of wild pigs. And I think that's there's a ready food source for the dogmen and for Sasquatch, and until they grab a person.
See, that's something that puzzles me right there with what you pointed out. Like, okay, now I guess if you're a biological being, you would need nutrition to keep your biological part alive. But I mean, that I get puzzled in there. Like people, I got a report a few weeks ago from Reedley. The people found little bitty baby tracks of Bigfoots in their backyard. They don't have kids. Okay, so there's no kids running around. They have fenced yards. It's a neighborhood. And here in the mud after the rain was these little baby kid tracks, barefoot kid tracks. But they had seen the Bigfoots for the last 2 years and little ones, but not that little, So it's like, are they breeding too? Like, how did they clone something that was able to reproduce even? Or like, I don't know.
L.A. Marzulli, who has his own program and channel and stuff like that, and he's also researching the Nephilim. He was reporting on, I can't remember the lady's name, but they did DNA testing on hair and other Bigfoot samples, and they found that the mitochondrial DNA, which is the mother side, is human, and the other the nuclear DNA, which is the other side, the male side, is unknown. And so not all hybrids are sterile. Like when you breed a horse with a donkey and you get a mule, allegedly the mules are sterile, but not always.
Oh.
And so I think, there's hybridization is going on, and it's like Jurassic Park, right? When they got the frog DNA and they put it in the dinosaur egg so that they couldn't reproduce because they could control it, and then nature found a way, right? Because it's a hybrid. and that's what I think. But I don't know. I mean, I don't have a health background or anything like that. But
I actually think the dinosaurs are a product of them playing with the DNA, and that's why they all got destroyed. And I don't think they were millions of years ago. I think they were flood time. They're all in a big, on top
all the
of
dinosaurs aren't even gone, because if you're seeing pterodactyls, and in the Congo there's the Mumbai or whatever, it's like a brontosaurus, and then you've got the Loch Ness. I mean, those are creatures, alleged dinosaurs, right?
And Komodo lizards.
And those guys.
Yeah,
so anyway, I don't want to take up all the time on the phone, but I do want to get in touch with you later, Alan, to talk a little bit more about this kind of stuff. And thank you again for coming back on BZ's show. I always love it when you're on. And thank you, BZ, for bringing him back.
Well, you're very welcome. Thanks, Simone, and have a great night.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Folks, we've been talking to Alan Thomas. He's an Sasquatch, UFO, paranormal, unexplained hunter, investigator, researcher. We spoke for the first hour, probably almost hour and a half, about CRPS, which is complex regional pain syndrome. And folks, if you find yourself with that, you have it, or you know friends that do, contact Alan Thomas on Facebook, and he'll chat with you and let you know, in this big old world, you're not alone. And a lot of people have it, probably more than you think. We spoke to Alan about what life is like when you have CRPS, and we're going to have you back on. I'm tentatively thinking that I might try to go to that Paracon conference in Virginia City. I don't know if you're going to be there, but I'm thinking that I might try to be there. Is that in your plans, maybe? Because let's see, what is it? I think that's May of next year.
I may be. I'm talking to the guy that Doug that does those.
Oh, right, yeah.
Only lately, I don't know why, but he's kind of stuck on these same guests that he always has, or speakers. And usually when one of those bows out or something, I'm like the fill-in.
Oh, okay.
But only he told me that it's a possibility. He hasn't got that. He's planned the day and everything, but he hasn't got all the speakers and stuff like that. But only, I went to that one. It's like they call that a state hospital like thing that they have over there.
Right. Yes. In Jackson.
Yeah. And no, this one's in Virginia City.
Oh, okay. All right.
House over there. And we went over there for Doug, and I he gave us a room in there.
Oh, boy.
And we stayed in there. And I took a friend along because I didn't want to drive all the way, over there by myself and everything. And that night, while we were in the room, something kept on talking in my ear and waking me up. A deep man's voice. And finally, around 5 a.m, I got up. I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to go get some coffee because he's not letting me sleep. Well, whoever or whatever it is. And I get in there, and my buddy had the room next to me, and he's like, hey, what are you doing in here so early? I go, what are you doing in here so early, He says, it's those damn kids running up and down the hallway and screaming and stuff in my room. They kept me up all night. So I was having...
Uh-oh. Did you just die? Yep. Okay. Well, Alan Thomas may have gone. It says connecting. Because I'd hate to hang up on Alan. Connecting. All right. Well, anyway, that was Alan Thomas. I'm BZ. Tomorrow night, we'll have a shot show, a Sackheads Against Tyranny. And I know that for a fact because I got a message from Clint who said for the first time since October, he's going to be available for a shot show tomorrow night. Okay. All right. I'm a little hesitant, a little leery, but still.
Monsieur! I can walk!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct from the SHR, the sumptuous, resplendent, and palatial SHR Media Network studios. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at bzep, at BZEP, and my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and by the Boeing Company, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going, and also by the Pratt & Whitney Engine Company, Thrust. You can trust. Tiaras are by My Little Pony. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. Thanks ever so kindly for my host, my co-host for the entire 2 hours, and guest, Alan Thomas. You can find him. He has his own YouTube show called The Squatch Zone and Sky Squatchin'. Go there. Listen to his show. Thanks to you for listening tonight. Chat show tomorrow night. Thanks for listening in podcast. Thanks for being in the chat room. God bless. Take care. Good night. Thanks again, Alan Thomas.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.